I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to SpeedWeek.
And I'm Larry Newber. Long Beach, Darlington, Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Sacramento. Just some of the cities we'll be visiting this week on SpeedWeek.
And Larry, we begin in Long Beach. Although the results of the first IndyCar race of 1985 would indicate the possibility of another dominated by last year's champion, the race story indicates otherwise. At first, it looked as if Mario Andretti was going to run away with the Long Beach Grand Prix, just like last year. But then ninth-place starter Danny Sullivan moved up, challenged, and went ahead of Mario. Sullivan maintained the lead until he had to stop for fuel. Andretti, gambling on only one pit stop, went on to win the race. Emerson Fittipaldi was second. Sullivan wound up third. Mario treated it as just another win.
The way I did it was the only chance that I had to do it, and I think it was worth the gamble because the fuel consumption really does respond the way I did it. So again, I just tried it. It worked. It's behind us.
Mario's doing a great job. I reckon he should retire. He's doing too well. He had enough in his racing career. He should stop.
I thought about cutting through the back door into the pits because Wally said that if you're really in trouble, but I thought if I do it and I'm in the lead, they might not think I'm in that big of trouble. So anyway, it stopped, and then I had to jump it, and I finally got it and coasted down the pits, and that cost us heavily because the time was just eating up and those guys were running away.
Jim Crawford finished in fourth position, and Al Unser Sr. was fifth.
One of the support races at Long Beach was round one of the SCCA Super V Series. One thing you gotta admit about Long Beach, the scenery, including the ocean front, is spectacular. Well, now on to the race. Davy Jones, car 2, is back in the States after a year of racing in Europe. He's on the pole and leads into turn 1. Jeff Andretti, number 43, Father Mario will win the next day, is into the wall with Doug Clark on lap 3. Ted Krappus early gets a bent wing, but will finish third. Gerald Rice in a new Anson into the wall, turn 8, while trying to move into second spot. But Jones is still leading. Ken Johnson in the Corvini VL1, the replacement for Ari Luyendijk, is in second and closing, but to no avail. Mike Groff will finish fourth today. Kerry Brin will finish fifth. Jones' winning margin is about 7.5 seconds. By the way, this race will be on ESPN next month.
A team that hasn't been there in a while took its stand on the victory podium Sunday at Road Atlanta. Bob Varsha reports.
Ending a year-long victory drought, Jaguar race cars swept the top 2 places in Sunday's Atlanta Journal-Constitution Grand Prix at Road Atlanta in Brazelton, Georgia. Hurley Haywood of Ponte Vedra, Florida, and Englishman Brian Redmond teamed in a 12-cylinder Jaguar XJR5, one going away over an identical car, number 44, driven by Bob Tullius of Winchester, Virginia, and Bedminster, New Jersey's Chip Robinson. The win was the first for Jaguar in International Motorsports Association Camel GT competition since March of 1984. Starting 4th and 5th among the 53 entrants under gray skies, the Jaguars moved to the front by lap 19 of the 124-lap race around Road Atlanta's demanding 2.5-mile circuit. Light rain showers slowed the action as the race neared halfway. When the skies cleared, the 2 Jaguars held first and third around the Buick-powered March racer of John Paul Jr. and Bill Adam. Transmission problems sidelined the March an hour from the finish, leaving the pair of Jaguars to fight it out. At the finish, Haywood and Redmond led their teammates by just over a lap at a record speed of 108.893 miles per hour. In the division for Grand Touring cars with engines over 2.5 liters displacement, the Ford Mustang claimed its 4th straight win of 1985, driven by John Jones of Thunder Bay, Ontario, and Colorado's Wally Dallenbach Jr. The GTU division for smaller engine cars went for the second time in 4 races to the Mazda RX-7 of Woodstock, Georgia's Jack Baldwin. The inaugural Champion Spark Plug Challenge for production-based front-wheel drive cars was dominated by Dodge. The winner was Joe Vardy of Tampa, Florida, in his number 0 Dodge Daytona. And the first Kelly American Challenge of 1985 for domestic sports sedans fell to a Chevy Camaro driven by Bruce Nesbitt of Chicago, Illinois. Nesbitt won over the number 57 Buick Regal of Patty Moise of Jacksonville, Florida, who entered the race as the first woman ever to qualify on the front row of an American road race. From Road Atlanta, this is Bob Varsha reporting.
Coming up in Grand Nationals, he who starts first wins.
And a driver who didn't even start wins the Sportsman race in Darlington.
Raceway, the track is usually the dominant story, but last week, a now familiar family was. For the second time, Bill Elliott's family sat on the front row, but many teams had optimism. Terry Labonte's Blue Jet made an aggressive first lap move, but for Darlington, this was going to be downright smooth. Soon after, that red blur got past everybody, and you got the idea how the day was going to go. Benny Parsons carried the ESPN in-car camera and had a tire explode while we were all inside, but you'd never know it watching how smooth he handled it. Only Dale Earnhardt Chevy capable of keeping pace with Elliott's Ford. For a while, Tim Richmond and Dale went to some heavy-duty racing. Tim made up a lap, but couldn't catch Elliott, and Dale dropped out. David Pearson qualified second fastest, but for the second day in a row, crashed. Ricky Rudd was placed high near the end, but parked hard. But for Elliott, a very calm Darlington and another parking space in Victory Lane. Darrell Waltrip was second, then Richmond, Labonte, and Rusty Wallace.
Saturday's Dixie Cup 200 for late model sportsmen at Darlington starred a couple of relief drivers. They, of course, will appear a little later. Grand National regulars Dale Earnhardt, Joe Ruttman, Jeff Bodine started up front, and Dale led early laps. Then Ruttman showed strength in the number 7 Folgers Olds. Darrell Waltrip also was an early leader. Ron Bouchard in one of the 3 V6s started 10th and made early advances. Ruttman's day ended just shy of lap 30, and that's when the rains came and halted the event for nearly an hour. During the red flag, 2 driver changes occurred. Harry Gant replaced an ill Jack Ingram, and David Pearson stepped into his son Larry's ill-handling mount. When things are dry again, the GN guys are still up front, but Brad Teague in car 75 suddenly appears in the top 5. One of those Grand Nationalers, Jeff Bodine, has the right side of his car ripped off by a sideways Eddie Falk. A broken timing chain puts Earnhardt behind the wall. The regular LMS guys begin to show strength. Tommy Houston leads for a while, and Rick Mast, who had finished second in the previous 2 races, does likewise. Bouchard called it a day with a broken axle. Early leader Darrell Waltrip is in the wrong place at the wrong time when Jeff Hensley loses it and slams both walls in turn 4. During a pit stop, Gant disregards the stop sign and his black flag, but doesn't lose a lap. The show's other substitute driver, David Pearson, can't control the Chattanooga Chew Pontiac and takes Charlie Luck and hard luck Tommy Ellis with him. When the green flashes on from this yellow, it basically boils down to a Brad Teague versus Harry Gant affair. And with a little over 2 laps to go, Gant goes low in turn 3, takes the lead, and collects the winner's share of the prize money.
The Southeast best-known late model circuit traveled to the very sanitary DeSoto Speedway in Bradenton, Florida, but it was a tragic race. Daniel Keene, number 5, last year's Rookie of the Year, led the first 46 laps of the first feature, but defending champion Darrell Brown and Butch Lindley made it difficult. Eventually, Butch in the white Camaro bumps his way into the lead. He had actually run more than the prescribed 125, but the last 10 laps must be green. Then suddenly Butch impacted turn 3's wall, actually hitting it broadside. Apparently his head hit the barrier, as he is shown in extremely critical condition. His car owner Neil Bonnet has flown to be at his side. Brown went on to win the race. The second race saw Darrell Porter, not an all-pro regular, start up front and then repel the challenges of first Jimmy Cope from nearby St. Petersburg, number 21, and then Jody Ridley in his famous 98. Porter held on for his first ever all-pro win. Butch's condition is still critical, but significantly improved by midweek. A fund has been set up and several sponsors have offered financial help. Now, contributions can be sent to the First Citizens Bank, Greenville, South Carolina, 29602.
The American Speed Association, for whom Lindley had raced often, opened its season Sunday in suburban Cincinnati. The big story here is how the Ford Motor Company has talked so many teams into using Thunderbirds this year. In the past, they've been considered foreign cars. Defending champion Nick Trickle sat on the pole for this $50,000 race in a Firebird. It didn't take long for the year's first incident. Last place starter Ed Evans oozes into Canadian Junior Hanley. Trickle split leading the first half of the race with Ford man Mark Martin. This 4-car crash didn't hurt anyone, but had an effect on Jeep Flume's equipment. Then later, this choreographed pirouette. Ed Evans again, this time into the 4th turn guardrail. During one caution, Bobby Donner decided to try 3 wheels. Didn't work, and later Harold Fair tried going up the bank. But in the end, the race-long strategy gave Bob Sineker, who's also gone to Henry's Cars this year, this opening race win.
Next, the USAC Modifieds in the West fly.
NASCAR Modifieds in the East sizzle. Sunday at Madeira Speedway in California, USAC Midgets and Super Modifieds. In a Super Modified heat race, this spectacular accident at the end of the backstretch. David Key, who says his goal this year is having a good time racing and some luck, doesn't have any this day. In the 30-lap midget main event, Rusty Lomier, car 32, leads the first 9 laps. The red flag comes out after a flip at the start-finish line involving Ron Hazelton. Lomier pulls to the pits with rear-end problems before the restart, giving the lead to Rick Gerhardt, number 16, the son of longtime Indy 500 car owner Fred Gerhardt. One more tip over, this is Chuck West, but he'll be restarted and finish 10th. Gerhardt has his hands full with Tommy Estone, car number 12, in the closing laps, but Gerhardt holds on for the win. The super modified portion of the twin bill was led early by Lance Tatro in car number 7. This multi-car crash damages a lot of equipment, but everyone is okay. As darkness settles in, Tatro's day ends with a puff of smoke. Bob Tartaglia leads a few laps in number 82, but then Art Cervantes in car number 11 pulls away for the victory.
One of the biggest races this time of the year in the Northeast is called the Spring Sizzler, NASCAR Modifieds. Connecticut's Reggie Ruggiero and New York's Mike McLaughlin should be the front row, but both times disallowed illegal nose pieces. Greg Sachs, number 21, inherited the top 8 inverted pole. He led for a while, but an aborted restart crashed him out, not to mention several others. Mike Stefanik, number 11, also led early, finished 5th. Jimmy Spencer, a consistent 4th. And Ruggiero, long day, allowed to start in the back, had an extra pit stop, but still raced up to 3rd. And Brian Ross, he too led, came from 10th to 2nd, and now trails good old what's-his-name by 1 point standing. Of course, that's Richie Evans. He started 7th, and like any other week, methodically worked his way to the front. Oh, Brian almost caught him 5 laps from the end, but as it turned out, just another win. The Eastern Dirt Modifieds were upstate in New York, Middletown to be exact, and Jerry Gappens files this report.
A weekend trip to Middletown, New York's Orange County Fair Speedway proved to be lucrative for New Jersey modified star Jimmy Horton. In less than 24 hours, Horton won 2 extra distance features and collected $6,000 from promoter Glenn Domley. Horton won Saturday night's Tri-Track 100 and continued his winning form in Sunday afternoon's Spring Fever 75-lap championship. Horton took command on lap 30 of Sunday's event when he slipped under leaders Carl Collis and Bob McCready and then went uncontested to the checker with Collis second. Reporting for ESPN SpeedWeek, I'm Jerry Gappens.
Tom Michaels reports on the invasion of the World of Outlaws sprinters Sunday at Eldora Speedway in Ohio.
The 4 heats for Sunday's World of Outlaws event at Eldora saw 4 wire-to-wire wins. Tim Green beat fast qualifier Brad Doty in the first. Jack Hewitt from neighboring Troy, Ohio won the second, but Dave Blaney was right on his tail the entire distance. A rocky start for Heat 3. Steve Butler spins with no damage. Andy Smith wins it. 3 cars tangle in Heat 4, but only Roger Rager is unable to continue as Randy Smith takes it. A lousy start, a great finish for Jeff Swindell in the B main. He spins down the front straight as the green comes out, but he kept it running and won. The guys up front to start the 30-lap feature qualified by their top 4 finishes on Saturday night. Doug Wolfgang jumps to a lead from the outside pole. Yellow is out on lap 6 as Ron Schumann spins. Wolfgang holds the lead just shy of the halfway point, and that's when Sammy Swindell storms by in 1. Swindell holds the lead until turn 4, heading for the white flag when he's caught in traffic. Wolfgang takes advantage and repeats his Saturday night win. The top 5, Doug Wolfgang, followed by Sammy Swindell, Steve Kinzer, Brad Doty, and Jack Hewitt.
CRA sprint cars, their normal corral, but some interesting visitors. Just back from Australia and winning up north at Baylands, Leland McSpadden. John Andretti thinking as much about Uncle Mario's race the next day.
It'll be a little tough to run against these guys because they are so good here, and I'm just hoping that I can hold tough. And you know, unlike Mario, he's not going to hold tough. He's going to be tough.
Dean Thompson back, his personal best lap, and ready to race hard.
Oh yeah, even if we got to tear it apart all the way, why we're gambling people right now.
John Redican led half of the race, but Brad Knopfsinger, his 4th straight fast time, finally parlayed it to his first win. Thompson was 2nd, defending champ Bobby Jones 3rd.
Last week in Darlington, a most unusual story surfaced in NASCAR. A financier by the name of Ron Howard talked to perhaps 7 teams about investing in them. Obviously, millions of dollars involved. The plan involves upfront cash, long-term investment accounts, escrow, and very high salaries. Billy Hagan's team is leaning toward signing. Howard is from near Daytona, and the money is apparently profit from the South American oil business. Yet another city with a street race. Kansas City, Missouri has announced the Pro Sports 2000 Series will compete there in June. Last year, this was a vintage amateur exhibition. On the streets of Long Beach last weekend, Lynn Haddock won another go-kart race. Late models on dirt in the east. Jeff Purvis has won in NDRA in Mississippi. He now trails Billy Moyer by just 20 points. And in West Virginia, dirt late model country, a new half-mile dirt speedway is being built. It's near Mineral Wells, and they hope to schedule events of NDRA, Stars, World of Outlaws, AMA, All-Star Sprints, and USAC. They plan to open in May with a Wedge late model show.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of Speed Week.
AMA Camel Pro Series for 1985 was on the mild dirt at Sacramento, California. Grand National champ Ricky Graham was there, but just as an observer, he's still recuperating from injuries, but he says he'll be back May 26th at Springfield. Jim Felice took the lead into the first corner and led the first 4 laps. Then Ted Booty, plate 12, took command. Bubba Schobert biked 67 passes on lap 23 and registers his second consecutive win.
Perhaps the most respected amateur motorcycle sanctioning body is the Western Eastern Road Racing Association, WERA. Its North Central Conference held a 6-hour endurance race in Indianapolis last week. 60 teams competed just for trophies, 7 different classes. A few pros experiment here too, truly making the competition stiff. Wes Cooley, for example, on his Suzuki. His Cycletech racing team, though, finished second to last year's champ, #1, Team Hammer. The brand new Somax USA team Honda was third, but first in heavyweight production class.
A couple of IndyCar notes. A bit of tradition might become a bit of history. The old green and white wooden garage area at Indianapolis will be torn down at the end of this year's race. They've been around since the beginning, 1909. And remember the old super team, Parnelli Jones and Vel Militich as owners and George Bugatti as mechanic? Well, they might be back together. Sherman Armstrong could be involved in the mix, and maybe Willie T. Ribbs, depending on the Lotus contract. The first SCCA Pro Rally, the Nor'Wester in Washington State, was won by four-wheel drive-powered Rod Millen. Steve Nowicki won the production GT class.
The new World Rally points show 3 Finns in the top 5, headed by Timo Salonen. In the first World Endurance Cup race, winners Jackie Ickx and Jochen Mass drove relatively conservatively because of the new fuel consumption limits. Porsches finished 1, 2, 3 with Formula One men, Manfred Winkelhock and Mark Schur second. Favorites Derek Bell and Hans Stuck, well, they ran out of gas. The Major League World Cycle Road Racing Circuit competed in Imola, Italy. American Eddie Lawson, now 2 for 2 in major international events, and Randy Mamola in Imola was second. And the R&M drag racing team will not dissolve as speculated in the wake of driver Lee Shepard's death. They begin again with Bruce Allen.
Here's this week's trivia question. Since 1971, there has been only one repeat Super V champion. Is it A, Bill Alsop, B, Bob Lazier, C, Tom Bagley, D, Bill Scott, or E, Herm Johnson? Larry will have the answer in a moment.
Answer to this week's trivia question. Alsop was champion in 1978. Lazier won the title in 77. Bagley in 76. Herm Johnson was never SCCA champion, but finished second in points 3 years in a row. So the answer is D, Bill Scott, who was champion 71 and 72.
The day before Sunday's IndyCar race, a high-speed dogfight called the Toyota Pro Celebrity Race took place. Among the celebrity participants, Lorenzo Lamas of Falcon Crest and Tony Danza of Who's the Boss. Professionals included Al Unser Jr. Car 15 and motorcycle racer Kenny Roberts, number 12. The race isn't without its mishaps. Don Sherman of Car and Driver magazine and John Dinkle of Road and Track have an unfriendly encounter. The winners, Al Jr. in the pro category, Lamas in celebrity, and Motor Trend editor Tony Swan in media.
But then again, I didn't participate. Well, Jackie Stewart and John Bisignano will have live coverage of round 2 of this year's Formula One schedule this Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. on ESPN. I'm Larry Newber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. Larry and I will be in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Sunday with live coverage of the Grand National race beginning at 1 p.m.